Ever since Alison Felix's coach, Barry Ross, put her success down to not just her weights program, but to deadlifts in particular, athletes have been doing a lot more heaving off the floor. Speed is stride length times stride frequency. The more force you apply on the floor, the longer your stride length is. But this only counts if your body weight stays the same. Sprinting's fighting against gravity. If you increase the force, but you also increase your body weight, that's a zero-sum gain. Slamming the floor harder when you're heavier just cancels itself out. And all those gym PBs in the winter, they don't mean squat. Diddly. But if the floor gives good energy return and you hit it harder at the same weight or lighter, you go faster. More airtime not only means R. Kelly songs. I believe I can fly. Means more stride length. Hitting the floor harder involves more force. More force is more strength. What's a great strength exercise? Deadlifts. Increasing strength in deadlifts increases force applied to the floor in sprinting, which increases stride length, which increases overall speed. Cue the deadlifting Felix. She weighed in at 121 pounds and was pulling a 125 pound deadlift. I've got to convert this to new money. She weighed 55 kilos? Good lord. I've got a couple of shirts weigh more than that. She trained and got herself to 270 pounds in 6 months and 300 pounds in 9 months. She only put on 2 pounds in body weight. And her times dropped from a smoking 22.8 to a blistering 22.1. Case closed. Box it up. Store it in the archives. But wind it back. She ran 22.8 with a 55 kilo deadlift. She ran faster than most men with a deadlift that's lower than most women. So was it the deadlift that was really responsible for improvement? Here's why I think that the deadlift isn't a great transfer to sprints for most. Perfect execution is pushing through the floor while pulling. But look a little closer at the back. It's rounded in sprinting, but not in deadlift. A well-performed deadlift is glute-orientated. That's why we cringe when we see this. When you're sprinting out of blocks, it isn't. You're perched on your toes. It's quad-orientated. In deadlifts, people bring out the belts, but there's no belts in sprinting. In a sprint start, the forward foot is at the deepest hip angle, while the back foot is at a shallower hip angle. If you're using the start concept that the back foot moves as quickly as possible when you take the hands off the floor, that's hip flexion, which is the opposite to deadlift, which is hip extension. Okay, let's say you disagree that the back foot is the most important. It's all about the front leg, which is pushing off with hip extension unilaterally, and that's where the deadlift will help. Well, it will, but only a little. There's not a lot of transferability there. Okay, here's an example. Take a strong squatter or deadlifter and get them to do a pistol squat. Not very good. Not a lot of translation from 2 foot to 1 foot. Take a gymnast and get them to do a deadlift. No problem. Okay, let's just say you totally redefine how you come out of blocks. You've got a close now front foot and back foot position. You've got your whole foot pressed onto the entire block. You pretty much get to full extension, ASAP, behind the line, and you've got the fastest feet in the West. You're basically launching out with both feet and then doing some kind of skip stride. And that's if you're lifting with your glutes. If you're deadlifting with your back, which a lot of people do, and you're getting that spine bending, then forget about the disc problems. You're trashing the motor engram, which is forcing you to stand up after the start. You're stopping this, and you're creating this, which is a tough position biomechanically to accelerate from. Remember sprint part 2? Oh yeah, and while I remember, you also trash your discs. So does deadlift work if you're just trying to increase global strength? You're a weak, lanky, technically based sprinter who just needs to increase horsepower. The theory is, if you increase maximal strength, then you're increasing the weights that you could be explosively powerful from. I mean, that's just an application of the theory that training at different percentages of max have different effects on your body. So if you increase your deadlift max, you can explosively shift 50% of that weight, making you more powerful. Sounds great, huh? The problem is, being relatively more powerful in lifting a load isn't the same as being quick in the unloaded movement. The word power exists on a spectrum. There's not going to be one video where I'm not going to use that word. In 1 second of the gun going off to start the race, you're supposed to be 8 to 9 meters from the start line. Even if you were doing a 2-foot Rocket Man style launch out of the blocks, 4 to 5 unilateral hops from foot to foot aren't going to be massively helped by deadlift maximal or 50% explosive power. It's not no help, I just think the help's pretty limited. But it's real seductive, because PB max strength directly relates to explosive power. And it's real nice to visualize blasting away from the field, but the important issue in those first few seconds is really quickness of movement. Quincy Quickfeet's going to outstrip Lenny, we have liftoff, from the start line. And yet there's no doubt that a winter spent focusing on getting stronger with an exercise called deadlift is appealing. Athletes love PBs, and deadlift being such a basic movement pattern with such a loose interpretation of what counts as making the lift makes it ripe for rapid gains. Getting stronger can mean that you become more powerful, if you don't bulk up. But there are so many compounding factors to it as a pursuit, from technique of the lift, to biomechanical translation, to imbalance, to injury, that I wouldn't put all my legs in that basket. But Alison Felix did improve, so how do I account for that? I'd look away from the exercise itself and focus on the effect on the body of that season's training. I think it's more pertinent that she ended up with strength gains that were multiple times her body weight. She went from a strength to weight ratio of 1:1 to 1 to 2.4 times body weight. If you take any compound hip pattern exercise and more than double your strength to weight ratio in it, all things being equal, you're going to get swifter. If you've done deadlifts and made some killer speed gains, let me know in the comment section below. It's always good to hear the other side. But Alison, if it's you, just leave a thumbs down. Cheers. But anyway, if you're not Alison, then give it a thumbs up. If you like my vibe, please subscribe. Woo! Woo!